Welcome to the show, Jonathan.
Thank you so much for having me over, Zinnia.
It's our pleasure. Jonathan, to begin with, I would like to take us through your journey in the field of music.
Certainly. So music began sometime about 2 decades ago when I first picked up the guitar and started strumming a few songs, went through some of the teething issues of learning a new instrument. And over time, joined a couple of bands and started performing professionally. The
Mhm.
last gig was with the Hard Rock Hotel here in Goa as a resident band for almost 3 years. So I believe music has been part and parcel, in addition to having other things happening at the same time. So you have a regular work day happening, you have personal interest that you're doing, and then of course you do have music happening on the side as
Right. So, in case if I need to know, what were the key learnings from this field that you gathered? If you would like to share it with us.
well. Music, yes, sure. So I believe music as a field has a lot of applications. People use it
Mhm.
in terms of helping people cope with a lot of stress. People use it by themselves to de-stress at times. And for me, music helped me write my second book. So it was live on stage when we were performing, and we had just done an entire setup, stage setup, sound, cables across drums, guitars,
Mhm.
and we had just done a sound check as well to understand how we sound to the audience. And we had just stepped off the stage after a sound check, just to relax a bit before the gig started. And it started pouring. All of a sudden, the heavens opened up and it was pouring, and it was an outdoor it was an outdoor
Mhm.
gig, right? And
Right.
we ran helter skelter. We ran picking up our instruments, covering it up
Interesting.
with plastic. And towards the end of an exhaustive night, we performed indoors at that time for the customers. And it got me thinking that life in itself and every working day sometimes is like that, right? So you come to work with a to-do list, with an actual plan in place on your diary, and by end of the day, you realize you've not achieved much of what you sought out to do, and you were just firefighting. So I had understood a lot from my career as a musician, and I applied a lot of that into my personal life and into my book as well.
So, should we hear you playing now? Jonathan, you have written a couple of books also.
Mhm.
So, what made you write the book? What was there in your mind when you thought of writing a book? What were the key learnings from the book that you wrote?
So writing has been a part and parcel for quite a number of years. I think ever since I was a kid, I was involved into poetry. I've got a number of poems written down. I even started writing a small little book on adventure stories as a child. And
Mhm.
when I grew up, a few years ago, I believe about 4 years ago, I published a thriller, a psychological thriller story set in a metro city in India. And recently, this year, I published a self-help leadership book called Life Lessons from When I Was in a Rock Band, which uh, which is mostly based on my own experiences of being a professional as well as being a musician at the same time. Because I'd seen a lot of instances where they're both the same thing. So something as similar as there's a chapter called Technical Difficulties, which speaks
Mhm.
about how a band experiences fluctuations, and you at times have bands who get electrocuted on stage. A band member of mine used to constantly get these little shocks as he's performing live on stage,
Oh my
and he
God.
would still power through, right? He would still power through the entire set. And that is quite similar to people who are working in a field and who also have these kind of hazards around them. Hazards could be as they could be large hazards like life and death situations, as well as people not taking care of their own health. So even if you're not able to drink enough water in the day, that's a personal hazard for you. So I'd seen a lot of these connections between music and the professional or office 9 to 5 working environment, and I
Right.
managed to pen these down into various chapters in the book. Yeah.
Wow. So when we are watching the concert, half of the time we don't realize what's happening behind the stage. So listening all this from you gives us another
Mhm.
view, another side of the show, what is happening, what's happening back door. So yeah, it's amazing to know so much. Uh,
Mhm.
Jonathan, are you like planning to write more books? Is anything in the pipeline? Anything that you would like to share with us?
Yes, in fact, yes, certainly. In fact, working as a trainer for almost a decade and starting off my own business last year, which was Yomorebi Hospitality Consulting, the
Mhm.
focus was on helping people get better. I think a lot of times we may not be aware of what we are really capable of, or maybe
Right.
we don't want to take the trouble of doing it. Right? I think
Mhm.
taking that first step to personal change and awareness is a very troublesome step for a lot of us. So that
True.
is something that we're looking at helping a lot of people out. And through this first self-help book, I've had a number of readers who have come back saying that they have started implementing a few of the tools that I've mentioned in the book, and it's
Mhm.
helping them in terms of self-discovery and better self-improvement. Down the line, I'm looking at a series of self-help books in different genres, and but more on that, I think, as in when I'm closer to having something out.
Some, like everybody has passion and they have profession. So, how, as a trainer, you are a trainer as well. So, how do you
Mhm.
recommend people to balance their
Mhm.
profession and passion?
I believe it all comes to you because if you really do want to do something, somehow the path is open in front of you. You find that the path is open in front of you. You find that hurdles have dropped down, and you are able to do a lot of what you want to do. Um, the initial struggle is there. In fact, we have a lot of people who want to do things, and you have a lot of people who are doing things. In fact,
Mhm.
this was the inspiration for one of the YouTube series that I came out with called Everything People, which focused on interviewing people who are not just wanting to do things, but who are really doing things. And now into physical fitness, and people who are into mental health, and people who are into all sorts of things which a lot of people wish that they could do. So if at all you're looking at balancing things, if you're thinking of passion and profession as two different things, I believe that they are one and the same. Um, it's quite unhealthy if passion and profession are two different things, right? Because
Yeah,
they
right.
need to be the same thing. So if you're able to
True.
unify that, if you're able to see your passion as your profession, you're able to do everything that you want to do. But it all comes down to you wanting to make that choice. We have people who have family lives with kids at home. They wish they could read more. But at the same, it all comes down once again to you wanting to do that and taking the first step to do that.
So here it is, life lessons from when I was in a rock band. I'd like to thank Russell at Tempo for designing this book cover to cover and all the band managers and members who contributed to this.
Well, I just wanted to understand you meeting so many people. So I'm sure you must be having a lot of experience. So there are a lot of people who are coming up with new job opportunities also during this pandemic scenario. So
Mhm.
do you want to tell us about few of the people that you might have spoken to who have also got some positive uh, work opportunities, or people have been losing. We've just heard that people losing jobs. So pandemic, uh, would you like to throw light at what pandemic basically uh,
Mhm.
has shown us, that there is
Certainly,
a positive
certainly.
side of it also? Yeah.
Sure. I think, as I said earlier, the pandemic has made people really reevaluate lives.
Mhm.
And a lot of people today have a lot of positive insight with what's happening around them. I think a lot of people are also looking at things beyond themselves. I think
Right.
prior to the pandemic hitting and hitting people's salaries and hitting people's comfort lives, it has made us really rely on other people, be more dependent on other people, and be there for other people. So with that, I think a lot of people have stepped out of their comfort zone and really been helping a lot of people. I've got friends who were into daytime jobs, and when they got out of their jobs because of the pandemic, they got people together and they started feeding, they started cooking food themselves in their own houses and feeding the people on the streets. And because you have more people unemployed when the
Mhm.
pandemic first hit, there are also people who are looking at different business ideas. Right? They look at such incredible
Right.
business ideas. I have a
Right.
friend
Correct.
who had a fish delivery business, and I think during the pandemic made the most of it because a lot of people were not going out, but they preferred to have fish and go out. It's a staple
Right.
diet. delivered to their doorstep. I've got people who have come out with hostels, considering that people may not want to spend a lot of money on luxury stay. People have opened up hostels here in Goa and across the country. So in fact, one of our clients very recently has been expanding at a furious pace in that segment. And he looks at the pandemic in a very positive light. So what he says is, he says that it helped him to reevaluate things, see things in a more focused area, and he's much more content today. So I think it helps us to go beyond ourselves and think of what can we do for another person. To a large extent, we are always saying, what can be done for me? But I think the pandemic has told a lot of people that what can you do for other people around?
So, Jonathan, just give me an idea that you have interviewed for your book. You've interviewed so many bands. So, when you were interviewing, was there anything special that came out from the interviews? Something that you would like to share with us?
Certainly. I think initially I wanted to base this on some of the bands that I had performed with. But I thought it would make a lot more sense if I also include stories from other bands across the country and see if their stories also connect to organizations and how people work in companies. I was quite surprised to see that I interviewed about 8 different bands in the book. I think 50% from Goa. And he said that because he was on stage, he could see so many things happening there. And you can again apply this to people at work. If they're able to look at things from a different perspective, you're able to see so much more.
So I want to know another thing. It's just out of my own personal inquisitiveness. I wanted to understand. Earlier, we used to have training face to face, and now it's online. So, what all challenges as a trainer you face, and what all challenges did people have? Were they comfortable adopting this new technique of getting trained? What are your views on that?
I think any good trainer loves to be in front of the people, face to face, and because in that position you're able to gauge audience interaction. You're able to get to know what is the vibe going on in the audience, and that is feedback for a trainer, right? I mean, you know when somebody's bored, you know when somebody's engaged,
Right.
based on different things. So of course, when the pandemic hit and you're no longer able to do a full classroom session of 50 people or 100 people or more. Any good trainer again would tend to look at things around. So when the pandemic hit, our company started doing trainings through Zoom. So we started doing personal effectiveness sessions. We started doing HR-related topics. We started doing self-growth topics, and we did these absolutely for free. We were not charging any fee because we thought that at that time a lot of people need to know that things are going to be okay. So we did these sessions absolutely for free. We also realized that as time went by, a lot of people are spending a lot of time in front of their computers, and any effective trainer knows that you need to constantly engage, constantly interact, even through this medium, for people to pay attention. But then Zoom fatigues sunk in, and people do not want to spend time in front of a computer. I think that again made a lot of trainers go through things. At our company itself, we opened up a YouTube channel. We set up a YouTube channel. We started doing burst trainings on that. So rather than do a 45-minute session or a 1 minute or 2 hour session, we started doing burst sessions through a series of 1 to 3 minute videos. So every week there would be a couple of 1 to 3 minute videos, and people are also able to see these at their own time. So I think as a trainer, you're constantly reinventing yourself at this time because you have social distancing norms in place. People cannot see your expressions very well as a trainer, and you need to go with the flow. Okay? You need to go with the flow. And I think the whole point is get the message across. Any way you can, get the message across, and see that people understand that and are engaged.
Right. It was really interesting to talk to you, Jonathan, and thank you for all the time that you devoted to us. And we are hoping to do more episodes with you. Wonderful. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you so much, Zinnia. Thank you for taking the time. Yeah, take care.